Hello, Acres of Diamonds audience. Welcome back. I am co-founder Scott Gibbs here with co-founder DJ Ligori, and we are coming off 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, before I say that, what are we on? Podcast number 26, Acres of Diamonds
26.
podcast number 26. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that we were we were at the Hilton coffee shop there on the corner of 259 and Main Street, and talking about our 2020 and all the progress we made and all the fear that we got over, and doing some reflecting and getting pretty full of ourselves by the end of the meeting. And then at one point we kind of said, well, hold on, big boys. What's going on? Do you really have it all figured out? And the answer was no.
No, we
The
do
answer
not.
was clearly no. So we started reflecting on what we're trying to do, and we're trying to rid the world of mental McDonald's, if you will, and help people get through their mindset challenges so that they can live a more fulfilling and enjoyable life. And we're trying to get people to understand that they don't have to be addicted to other people's opinions about them. We're trying to give them all these tools and strategies to do that. And we realized that the experiences at our table that day were 100% male.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was kind of an epiphany, wasn't it, DJ?
It was. It was a very, it was a very humbling moment. We haven't really, it was a one-sided idea essentially that we were both talking about.
Now, don't get me wrong. I sit in a number, probably five different coaching platforms, whether it's small business coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, mindset coaching. I guess it's 4, maybe it's 5. But anyway, in all those coaching sessions, so I see thousands of people.
I see thousands of people.
And those people
are
70%
are 70% female.
Interesting.
So what were we missing? so we were missing something then.
We were missing.
And it kind of, and when you told me that too, and I was thinking about some of the coaches or the self-development individuals who I have researched or read, and yeah, there's males, but also the females honestly had just as good ideas, if not better. And so I, as we started thinking about this, I was like, we need to involve a female somehow into this business. As we start launching group coaching sessions, whether they're one individual talking to many, or whether it's individual meetings, whatever it is, we need to have the other side. We need to see the other perspective. And we had this epiphany, and as we started talking more too, I realized that the times that I had talked to females about this type of thinking, they were good at it. They were much more apt to really start digging and really start solving some of the problems they might have, or introducing new insight and awareness into their life. Whereas the males are, you have to dig a little bit more. They have that macho feel, which, they might not want to dig as deep into maybe some of their issues or some of the things that they think might help them. Maybe it's a fear aspect, whatever it may be. But the females made more progress with it. And as we kept talking, I said, were females comfortable enough if 2 males are introducing this new type of thinking and this new type of awareness? And I said, I personally think if a female was taught or introduced to another female who understood this type of thinking, it would be much more productive. It would be a better session. And so we kind of had this idea. We had this epiphany, and about 2 weeks after that meeting, I think we found that person. And it was a very organic and natural introduction that we both had. And as we were talking, I was kind of like, this is her. And it was like, I didn't even think about it. But then as the way that she was talking back to me, I was like, holy cow, she understands all of this stuff completely, and she can teach all of this stuff. And I think one of the most important things that we learned when we did meet with her was, she said, yeah, my friends to come to me for the therapy sessions, and they trust what I say and my opinions. And I said, that is huge. That's huge, because you're developing this trust, and they trust your ideas and perspectives or maybe some of their issues, or maybe some of the things that they need help with. So, after this interaction I had with this female, I said, this is her. This is, and I got real excited, and we were getting so juiced up the way that we were talking back and forth to each other on all the things that we want to do now, and the different perspectives we have on things. And so I introduced her to Coach Gibbs. We had an initial meeting, and I think this is the one.
Let's bring her on.
Yeah, here she is. There she is.
We're gonna have to teach her how to unmute so we can actually hear.
You gotta get your volume on.
Now you can hear me.
Now we can hear you.
We may regret it, but now we can hear you.
It's a little loud, I'm sure, right?
Yes. Lots of energy there. She has her caffeine, as she noted.
She did.
Got it right here next to me, ready to rue the day.
So DJ and Sydney, Sydney, how did you actually reach out to DJ? I find that kind of interesting.
So I know DJ from we've followed each other on Instagram for a few years because we know each other from college. And he had put up he posts a lot of the Acres of Diamonds posts with quotes, and I love quotes. I'm a huge quote girl. So I actually was just, scrolling through social media, looking at people's stories, and he had put up a quote, and I replied to his story, and I said, I love this. And that's what sparked the conversation, was just me having this just urge to reach out. And I mean, I usually I'm all about letting people know oh, I really like what you posted or blah, blah, blah. But usually, it just kind of again, the whole epiphany thing, it just kind of felt right. I was I feel like I need to put myself out there and just say I really like what you posted. I like this story. This is really cool. I like this quote a lot. I can relate to it. And that just really sparked our conversation, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So I think what I find interesting about the people we're meeting, DJ, there seems to be a common thread. It has a lot to do with Park Ave and alcohol.
Only the cool kids live around there.
Just an observation. Just an observation.
Well, I'm sorry that those are the people that we are surrounding ourselves with.
We mean well.
I will say though, you get a lot of, it's funny because the times that I have spoken with people about this type of thinking, it has involved alcohol. I mean, it's been in a public setting, and it's been at a restaurant, or it's been at a bar, wherever it is when they were open. And I will say the answers that come out of these individuals, whether they are in a sober or intoxicated state, are typically really impressive. I mean, and they're very interesting, and they're being honest about the answers. And, that's what I generally love, is hearing all of these different perspectives, whether they're male or female, about this type of thinking and awareness. So yeah, it might involve Park Avenue and some alcoholic beverages every once in a while, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Sydney, before we launch too far off into Park Ave life, that's probably a whole new reality show. If we wanted to do one, we could probably do it. One of the things that was attractive to me after DJ told me about you was that he said you're very, very humble, you're very open, honest, vulnerable. And what I've come to believe is that one of the reasons that I do what I do and that I'm effective at what I do is not because of my successes necessarily. It's because of my setbacks, my challenges, and the ability to overcome those setbacks and challenges and move forward. So the reason empathy is a funny thing, right? Empathy only truly happens if you've been able to go through it. So yeah, I'm attracted to you as a female representation for us. I'm probably more attracted to you based on the diversity of thought relative to your life experiences.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. Both of you, really, that does. And I honestly, I couldn't agree more. I think that especially when people are able to talk about certain things that might be a little uncomfortable, I think it's a really beautiful thing to be able to connect to someone, whether that be, you know, like they went through something similar or they're struggling with something similar and you're able to just talk about that and relate to each other. I think that's when a really beautiful relationship's able to blossom. And, you know, talking with you guys is just so organic and natural, and it's very easy. And so I know when I can really talk and be myself and just feel comfortable talking to someone, like that's someone that you know, like it just, there's certain people that have come into my life that I know that they're there for a reason, you know. And when I can connect to someone, it's just, it's a beautiful thing. I've really come to appreciate that, especially getting older and realizing what I cherish in certain relationships with people. Being able to have a deep conversation beyond just a surface conversation that a lot of kids our age really do. You know, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are afraid to dive deep and be open and be vulnerable. It's
So
hard.
what are some of the challenges that you've overcome, and what's attracted you to this platform?
So I have always struggled with mental health has been something very important to me since I was a kid. I've
So
grown,
I want to just, before we get into that,
yeah.
so I'm curious as to your thought on, is there a stigma around the term mental health? And is there a different term we could use to, like, could we use high performance psychology? Right? Because I'm not sure, like I think mental health is being used as this huge umbrella to incorporate a lot of stuff that, okay, yeah, it's a challenge, but is it really what mental health used to be, right? I mean,
Definitely. And yeah, you know what? That's a really good point. And I think that it's almost like, in my opinion, when someone says mental health and even those words coming out of my mouth, it's such a negative. Do you know what I
right.
mean?
And I don't think, yeah, I think there's a different term that we could use, right? To say high performance
I
psychology
perform,
or whatever.
I
I
really
heard,
love,
I heard something the other day. They said mindset management.
ooh, that flows off the tongue nicely.
Yeah. It's got
I
some
like
nice
that.
alliteration to
Yeah.
it, right?
I like
Mindset
that
management
a
of
lot.
your mental McDonald's. Ooh, there you
Oh, so many M's. It's just perfect. I
Exactly.
love that. Love that.
Mindset
So yeah,
management.
I think that no matter what age you are, honestly, it doesn't matter if you're a teenager or if you're in your older or younger, whatever it is. I think that your mindset, it's so important. And what a lot of people don't take the time to do is talk about maybe where they're at, you know, like if they're struggling with something, it's it's hard for people to admit. And I feel like that's something that us three at least, definitely want to figure out why and like help that
right.
become more, it's more normal to talk about, you know? And that's why when I connect to someone, I'm able to talk about so openly and freely and comfortably with something maybe I'm struggling with or that they're struggling with, or even just to talk about in general. I want to normalize that and not make it into such a negative, you know? It doesn't need to be. It's something that everyone has a brain. Everyone has something that they're dealing with. And it's all about taking life and dealing with it in the best way possible. That's going to help you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I just think that physical health is looked at so differently than mental health, you know? Again though, like mental health, I like the whole mindset management. It's all about your mindset, no matter what it is that you're going through or dealing with. It's about how you look at something.
Yeah. I
And
mean, let's go back to how we started this call. I mean, I listened to you two talking about the big problems of the day, right? The
yeah,
big problems of the day were
Yeah.
DJ's AirPods ran out of juice while he was on the treadmill. And it, in DJ's words, it was the worst. And then then you misplaced your AirPods for 2 weeks, had to go out and buy another set, and then found them. And that was just the worst, right? I
word.
mean, the language that we're using to describe these champagne problems, right,
Yes.
is really interesting,
Yeah.
right? And it candidly, for two people that are really pretty damn good at understanding mindset management, I was I was interested. I was like, huh, Wow.
I'm glad you
It's-
called us out on it too.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about how in our meeting at Coach Chiv's house, how we have to be aware of when we might slip out, or when and almost like physically say, "Well, I slipped out. Hey, my AirPods ran out of juice. That really shouldn't bother me that much. Okay, that's all right.
Life's gonna be okay.
Be all right." And we were bummed.
I mean,
It really was. And I mean, it was, and we were talking about the sun and how it came out, and our moods were all juiced up. We were like, yes, it's going to be a great day. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to do this. And 30 seconds later, it all went away. We're like, all right, maybe I'll just stay in and not do anything. And just
isn't that
relax.
sad? And we didn't even notice. At least I didn't. I didn't even notice what the words that were coming out of my mouth because it's just habit. Like it's become a habit.
Well, it
It's
is.
like
So guys, it is habit. And what I found really, really interesting is the way you fed off each other,
Yeah.
right? You weren't doing it consciously. You weren't one upping each other, but once one of you went to pointing out the negative,
Mhm.
the other one piggybacked on it.
Yes.
Right. And it's interesting because it's probably a means of collaboration, right? It's a mean of rapport building, right? Rapport building requires that you find common ground,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's natural, but what we have to understand, like you said, DJ, you got to kind of, at some point, you got to step up above yourself, right?
Mhm.
And in fact, I was the stepping up above yourselves for you
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I was the observer, right? I was the observer with no emotional ties to what you guys were talking about. I'm like, huh, wow. Okay, here's two
kind of-
very, very positive people that have great mindset management, right? Very, very self-aware. And I'm watching them in a small degree, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal, but it did happen. And it was interesting.
It's
Well,
kind
and
of like he loves company too.
Yeah.
How it's like if
Yes.
Sid says something bad, it's like, yeah, I can relate in this way.
I was
like,
trying to relate, right?
Yeah.
It's like a negative way of relating, and then it's like, oh, let's just keep being negative together and
Let's
build
do it
something.
together. Like, yeah, like you're not alone. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
negative with you. Yes.
It's like the same thing with like gossiping about someone. I mean, like it feels icky, but we do it because we're trying to relate or we're trying to become better friends with someone. And so, oh, let's put someone else down in order to become better friends with like, really? Is that what we want to do?
So you
That's
guys, you guys open to an observation?
That is
So
very,
let's go back to, all right. So DJ,
yeah.
DJ says his earpod or AirPods lost their juice while he's on the treadmill. He's looking around the gym like, oh, this sucks. And all right, so what could you have said, Sydney, to your point, to build rapport and to relate and still redirect him?
Okay, so let's see. Take it into a positive.
Right.
And like, oh, that's rough, but at least you could use that time to maybe like do like maybe you could meditate or something like as you're on the treadmill, or like, okay, you don't have music, maybe you can still work out, like at least you're still at the gym and you're able to like get a good workout in. You just don't have the music to do it with, but you're still able to work out. At least
Right.
you have
So
legs.
exactly. Well, exactly. So DJ, so Sydney then talks about how the weather sucks. Right. She said the weather sucked. What could you have said? How could you have said yes? And then how could you have moved?
The weather does suck currently right now, but supposedly this week it's supposed to be 85 and sunny. And you kind of lead her into a future positive state of basically saying, or maybe even you could say later on today it's supposed to get more sunny. So just hold on for right now. We're going to be okay. And as we move forward, better times are on the horizon.
Right. So what you both have done, right? So this is coaching, right? This is coaching. This is effective communication skills that nobody is being taught, right? So it's called yes and language. So yes and language is a lot better than no but language,
Yeah.
right? So yes and, boy, tomorrow's going to be a great day. Can't wait. Or yes and, I could really, like DJ, you in the past you've run through shitty weather and actually felt really, really proud of it, right? Yeah, today sucks, and I'm going to go out and crush a run, and it's going to it's going to suck the whole time, and afterwards I'm going to feel awesome because I did something that sucked, right? Doing things that suck build self-esteem.
Mhm.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
fact. Doing easy shit doesn't build self-esteem. And we have to get this in our, we have to understand this,
Yeah.
right? And we can help each other understand it, right? So the yes and language, and then what we call a reframe, that's what you guys just did for each other. You reframed. And you can do this for everybody in your life.
It's
Everybody.
beautiful. It's not even that difficult to do when you just take the time to do it.
Right. You have to be, to your point, Sydney, you have to be conscious. Right?
Yeah.
You have to be conscious, and
Right.
you have to be ready to step outside the conversation, not make it about yourself. You have to
Mhm.
actually make it about the other person. Ooh, I'm sensing that person looking at the glass half empty. Well, the glass is kind of half full. What can I say? How can I say it?
Right.
Right.
And it's really it's a snowball effect if you don't become aware of it as well. So I mean, so I come on, say my AirPods are shot, says, the weather's bad, whatever it is, and then an hour later you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and then tomorrow you wake up a little later and you don't do your morning routine, or then you go into work late on time, and so as it's kind of like you're planting a tree and you plant it wrong, and then it just keeps growing in the wrong direction.
That's a
So
great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
really is.
So I mean, if that foundation, we talk a lot about your personal values, your beliefs, and if that foundation starts off bad, it's going to end bad too. It's going to go down the bad paths that you don't necessarily want to go, or you might not even realize that you're going down those paths. I think more often than not, we don't even realize. We do this almost unconsciously, just like we talked about in the beginning, how if somebody says something negative, we relate to them saying, yeah, here's another
that's
negative.
what I mean. It's the worst. And then you add into it.
You add into it to connect with them, to say, hey, you're struggling, I'm struggling as well, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Whereas now the new framework and the new awareness should be, hey, that's a temporary struggle or problem, if we want to say, but here's how this is going to be much better moving forward. And so now you've that foundation was struggling, and now you just kind of restructured it, and now it's going to grow, the tree will grow straight now. So we could do that to any problem or obstacle that anybody has in their life.
Yeah. I mean, and what you guys demonstrated, right? And by the way, for the audience, this was completely organic. I didn't tell DJ and Sydney that I was going to call them out on their shit.
Yeah.
They had they had no idea, right? So
No idea. I was like, oh God, here we go.
Here we go. And we're coaching here.
So the other interesting thing about it is, for everybody to understand, is this was one-to-one, this was two friends talking, and it reflects our inner dialogue, right? So the DJ, you mentioned it, or Sydney, you mentioned it, snowballs. DJ, you mentioned it, snowballs. You mentioned the tree growing in the wrong direction. We all know that once we ask the wrong question in our brains, it answers with a wrong answer, and then we ask another, it spirals. We all know we spiral. We all know it. Well, let's choose to spiral in the positive. There's nothing wrong with spiraling in the positive. We can spiral or ascend in the positive instead of spiraling in the negative. But
Ascend. I like that.
Ascend. Yeah, we can ascend. So we can do it. It's habits, right? We can habituate our behaviors, but you have to be aware of what needs to be habituated first.
Yeah, because I wasn't aware at all of when I was being so negative at the beginning. I was really just trying to relate. And with that, I was just like, oh yeah, it's the worst when I lose this. And so I don't even realize the words that are coming out of my mouth. So
and look, you can't, Sydney, you can't visualize, we think in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as soon as you use the word worst, or I always, you have a tendency, I've heard it now 5 times in the last 2 days, I have a bad short-term memory. I always forget things. You say it. So my mother had a stroke, and she started using language like that. I said, Mom, you're wrong. She said, well, the doctor said. I said, look, if you want to see evidence of bad short-term memory, you'll see it 100%. All of us will. If you ask yourself to show yourself evidence of bad short-term memory, you'll find it. You'll find evidence of any question you ask yourself. So if you ask yourself, how is it? How do I see my memory being better? How do I see a good short-term memory? You'll find that too. So I did an exercise with my mom called pegging. I said, Mom, and my dad was there too, because my dad said, no, she has a bad short-term memory. I said, no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. And I'll show you. And I said, Mom, give me 10 nouns, 10 persons, places, or things in a row. And she did. I said, now name them back to me in a row. She named like the first two. She goes, I can't do that. I go, oh yeah, you can. I'll do it right now in 2 minutes. I'll show you how to do it. My dad's like, she can't do it. I go, she can do it. So I showed her how to do it. She did it. And she did it for 1 week. And we did the exercise one time. And she remembered those things in order, 10 things in order for weeks. Not 1 week, not 2 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
Because she was telling herself that she can do it. She was believing it.
And I showed her the tools of how to do it. I gave her a new strategy, a new tool. So now she could change her belief. Right?
That's awesome.
Now
Yeah.
she can see the evidence. And I'm happy to do that with you offline, but it is, look, beliefs are huge. Huge.
Oh.
They form all our behaviors. All our behaviors, our thinking and our beliefs create our emotions create our actions create our outcomes. We're creators, period. That's it.
Yeah.
So you better get the thinking right. You better get the mindset management right if you want your outcomes to be better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It all starts with what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there
It's
she
kinda
is,
like-
Sydney Smith.
And there she is. I don't have short-term memory loss. I don't. Okay.
Okay, so here's another tip. So say it differently. We want to get rid of can't, shouldn't, wouldn't.
Make it positive.
Yep. So what do you have?
I have great memory.
Right. So now what your brain will do is it'll look for evidence of having great memory. Did you remember to get on this call today at noon?
Sure did.
Okay.
I have great memory.
Right.
Yes.
You do. I mean, we all do. If we choose to see it.
It's what you tell yourself, because then it's kind of like, do you believe more in the things that you tell yourself, or do you believe more in the opinions or the ideas that others tell you? And it's kind of like, you have the decision to let other people dictate your beliefs and ideas and opinions, or you can make the decision to establish your own ideas based upon your external environment, whatever that may be. We talk about this all the time. The teams we've been on in our life, whether they were academic, whether they were professional, like a work team, a sports team, when we're involved with other people will have other ideas and other perspectives and beliefs. And then, the family that you grew up in, the environment you grew up in, all of this stuff has shaped every single one of us right to this very moment that we are living right now.
Oh yeah.
And it's all up here. And then we make the decisions based upon, I have the motto literally right here, your beliefs and your thoughts lead to your emotions. So it literally leads to the way that you feel. Then it leads to the actual way that you act, the things that you do physically, and then it leads to the results and the outcomes. So if you want good results and good outcomes, you can actually skip right to the beginning and feed yourself good beliefs and good ideas. You can, cheat the system. And so it's not necessarily cheating the system. It's just understanding, how do I get the best results and the best outcomes in my life? Think the best stuff. Remember Trevor Moawad said, stop feeding yourself stupid shit. All right. Because if you feed yourself stupid shit, you're going to have those bad results and bad outcomes. That tree is going to be all out of whack because you started from a bad spot. So, that's that snowball effect kind of broken down even more.
DJ, you had just mentioned, and it actually reminded me, because I have great memory, that you had mentioned, what are you going to listen to, your own opinion or someone else's opinion, and let that affect you? And that just reminded me of literally last night. I was having a very deep conversation with one of my girlfriends, and she was talking about a relationship it's a complicated thing right now. And she was telling me, it's hard because I have my thoughts about my relationship with my significant other. And when I have my other friends talk to me and give me their input on it, it changes the everything that how I see him or how I see our relationship, right? And I'm like, oh my God. You know, I know what she's talking about. And it's really sad to know how I mean, besides just our relationship with ourselves and how we see ourselves, when you're in a relationship with someone and you have that relationship, that's between you and that person. But the minute that someone says something, if you take what someone says so deep to heart and you care so much about what maybe they think or how they see it, that's going to change your entire outlook. And maybe that's a good thing, but it could also be a really bad thing too. And it's something that I know I have dealt with, and I know that she is, and that must mean a lot of other people too. So I don't know, just you mentioning that just made me realize it really does. No matter, it could be the tiniest little thing that someone says, that's something that's going to stay up here. And that's something that if you choose to let that affect the way that you see yourself or someone else, it will.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you took every idea from people around you, you would get pulled in every single direction. And I guarantee your stress, anxiety, fear, uncertainty, everything would increase because you don't know where to go now. Exactly. I mean, it's like it's going to the grocery store and wanting to buy oatmeal, and there's 4,000 different oatmeals, and you go, oh, I just wanted oatmeal. If there was 2 options, I would really enjoy this. But now there's so many different areas to go, and now we get pulled in all these directions. And at the end of the day, you're like, wait, what did I believe in the beginning here?
What did I want?
I actually care. Like, what was the important piece?
Yeah, and this is a great lead in and maybe how we can wrap this up. But this is the first, you guys just spoke about the reason we're so passionate about this, right? We are being inundated. This is the true epidemic of America, what you just described. We're being inundated with negative messaging from media and social media. Yeah. We're consuming that mental McDonald's 24/7, 365, which would be fine, kind of, if we knew exactly who we are, what we stood for, and what we stood against. If we had that moral compass, if we had that backbone, if we had that personal culture in place to define who we are, what we stand for, what we stand against, all these inputs from other people, from social media, from media, would be just that, things for us to consider within the fabric of our personal values.
Yes.
But what's happened is there's a lack of church, there's a lack of discipline in the schools, there's a lack of Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, lack of family dinners, lack of ways for us to clearly define who we are, what we want, what we stand for, what we stand against. So, for example, one of our mentors, Shad Helmstetter, he calls it the God-shaped hole. Another mentor, John Maxwell, calls it identity insecurity. Paul Martinelli calls it the inability for us to hold our image. Right? All of them. We call it being influenced by mental McDonald's. Right? So our solution, our antidote, our vaccine, if you will, for all this uncertainty that you guys just described, is helping people, number one, become aware of what they just heard the 3 of us talk about, that's happening to all of us. That is the epidemic. That's the problem. What we haven't been taught in this new world is how to execute our mindset management, how to develop a high performing psychology against all those outside negative influences. And that's what Acres of Diamonds is going to do. That's why you're so important to this, Sydney, because you understand it and you have a female perspective and you just have a different way of communicating than DJ. DJ and I are very similar, right? And how we communicate. You have similarities, but you're also going to be very different, which is going to allow us to impact a much broader audience. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. And that's the goal.
That's the goal. So we're going to change our little piece of the world. We're going to bring people along for the ride. We're going to use yes and language to keep us out of negative spirals and put us into ascend into positive spirals.
And upward.
Spin upward. So that's like a tornado, right? A positive tornado.
It's the ascending tornado. Yeah, there we go.
All right, so let's wrap up. So how are you two going to spend the rest of this gorgeous day?
Oh, I got a beautiful day ahead of me. You kidding me? Look at how nice it is outside. I got a bunch of stuff already planned and everything. I'm actually working on some business stuff to officially launch the Acres of Diamonds coaching business.
That's exciting. That's
Ooh.
exciting. And
Yeah,
you,
so
Sydney?
hopefully
Me?
end of the-
Well, I think once I finish this coffee, which is already really kicking in, I'm gonna take my dogs out for a nice, beautiful walk outside, enjoy the fresh air, and I think I'm gonna leave my phone inside and just
Wow.
be outside with the dogs in nature.
Well,
That is-
congratulations. I'm gonna do something very similar. I'm gonna put myself into nature, a nice long walk, and I'm gonna probably listen to some mindset stuff just to reinforce everything we talked about today.
Love it.
Here we go.
Awesome. You
Be
too.
yourself.
It's been a real pleasure. Sydney, welcome to the team. We got to figure out now how we leverage all of your obvious strengths and how we leverage that great memory of yours.
It's the best memory. What can I say? I've got a really good memory. I'm excited to bring it to the team.
Awesome. We are too. So thank you very much. That's podcast
Thank you.
Acres of Diamonds podcast number 26. Have a great week.